Welcome to Info2Cart, your go-to channel for research guides. In this video, we'll walk you through an easy and practical guide to identifying research gaps. Whether you're a student, researcher, or academic writer, this guide will help you find unexplored areas in your field and set the foundation for impactful research. First of all, we need to understand why research gaps is important. A research gap is simply an area with missing or limited information. Finding these gaps is important because it helps you make unique contributions to your field. It shows the relevance of your study. It avoids repeating what others have already done. Think of it like solving a puzzle. Your research fills in the missing pieces. Secondly, as a researcher, you need to choose your research area. You need to start broad, then narrow it down to a specific area. For example of a broad area is leadership and performance. This can be narrowed down to the effect of leadership style on the performance of banks. In this case, it was narrowed to banks. After choosing your research area, next is reviewing existing literature. You need to dive deep into what's already been studied in the effect of leadership style on performance of banks. And you can do this by using tools like Google Scholar, PubMed, and ResearchGate to find articles in the topic. Ideally, read 15 to 20 papers related to your topic and summarize each paper in a table with details like author name, study focus methods used, key findings. Organizing your information like this helps you see patterns and missing areas. You sometimes do not need to read all the articles in detail. What you can do is read all the abstracts of those articles in detail and extract the information in a tabular form for more clarity. When reviewing these literature, try to spot patterns and contradictions while reading. Look for similarities by asking questions such as, are these studies all reporting the same findings? Do some studies have conflicting results? Ask yourself, why are the findings of David and Rashid different? What factors might explain the variation? Why did one researcher, like John, find a positive relationship, while Joy found a negative one? If you were to conduct this study, would you agree with John or Joy? What did each of them miss or fail to do that you could add to your study to solve the problem at hand? Think about the main question you want to answer or the challenge you're addressing. By reflecting on these aspects, you'll be able to clearly define the problem and set the foundation for your research. For example, if you come across an article or journal from, let's say, Joy, 2025, studied how leadership styles, democratic, collaborative, and laissez-faire, affect the performance of manufacturing industries. Joy found these styles positively influence performance. You need to ask questions about her study to help you identify a gap. First question, could leadership be measured differently? Why did she not use other styles like transformational or servant leadership? Joy's proxies may have been influenced by the manufacturing industry's specific needs, but would her results be the same in service industries or creative fields? Secondly, which analytical tool did she use? Can I use a different one and arrive at the same result? Using tools like surveys, interviews, or cultural factors could provide deeper insights. Finally, her findings might not apply everywhere. Testing these styles in different industries, countries, or regions could reveal variations. By critically examining Joy's study, we can find gaps in the way leadership is measured, the industries and contexts studied, and the methods used. To build on this to get your gap, your study could explore other leadership styles, test findings in new industries or locations, and use diverse methods like surveys and interviews to gain a fuller picture. This makes your work stand out. While reviewing your literature, you can also identify areas of gap by going through study limitations and recommendations for future studies of previous studies. This can be found after their conclusion section. Every research paper lists its limitations, so pay close attention to this section because it shows you, for example, these limitations could become the focus of your research. For instance, a study of people's perception of electric vehicles may come out negative in the rural areas because of lack of knowledge and exposure of the people living in the area, but come out positive in the cities where people are exposed. Another example, there may be a positive impact of sustainability reporting on performance of oil companies, but when the same topic is examined in banks, it may result to a negative impact. It is important to understand where this literature was carried out, which variables they used, what methodology they used, and try to do something different, and by doing something different your study stands out, and by standing out you have identified a knowledge gap which your study on completion will fill. As earlier explained, also look at methods used by previous researchers. Did previous studies use only interviews or surveys? Can you approach the topic using a different method, like experiments or case studies? For example, if all studies on work-life balance used interviews, you could try surveys to gather broader data. Another way is to explore contextual gaps. Contextual gaps focus on specific groups, locations, or time frames that are missing from past studies. For example, geographical gap. Studies may focus on Western countries but ignore developing nations. Filling these gaps makes your research more unique and relevant. You can also examine changes in theories adopted by the literature you are reviewing. Sometimes, existing theories don't fully explain a topic. Ask yourself, are the theories outdated? Can new theories help better explain the issue? For instance, adding a cultural perspective to studies on work-life balance could offer fresh insights. Finally, you can talk to experts, professors, professionals, or researchers in your field. They can share ideas for unresolved challenges to help you identify gaps that aren't obvious from the literature. If you are opportune to also attend webinars or conferences to hear about emerging research topics in your chosen area. Once you've done your research, summarize your findings. For example, most studies focus on domestic students, leaving international students underexplored. You can state that previous research relied on small sample sizes, limiting general conclusions. These statements show exactly what's missing and how your research will address it. Then translate your gap into clear, actionable questions. For example, how does work-life balance affect international students' academic performance? What role do cultural differences play in managing work-life balance? These questions will guide your entire study. If you can go through this article 2 or 3 times, I can assure you that you can be able to excellently identify your gaps in research. If you found this guide helpful, like, share, and subscribe for more academic tips and tutorials. Let us know in the comments what topics you'd like us to cover next.